It started with the sound of a bottle tipping over in the kitchen. I wasn't even supposed to be home that day, a random afternoon where the universe shifted something small just enough to tear a canyon in my life. I was supposed to be working overtime, but a glitch at the office sent us all home early. No warning, no messages exchanged with my wife, Lauren. Just me, my car pulling into the driveway, and the odd sense that the house itself was trying to hold its breath. I walked in through the back door quietly. Not out of suspicion, but out of habit. Keys jingling in my hand, jacket over my arm, mind already spinning on what leftovers were in the fridge. The first thing I noticed was the silence, not the peaceful kind, but the thick, waiting kind. And then the bottle fell. It wasn't loud, but it was wrong. It clinked against the granite, spun, then rolled toward the edge of the counter before bumping harmlessly to a stop. I stepped into the kitchen, expecting to see Lauren tidying up, maybe on the phone. Instead, I found the delivery guy from West Side Furniture slouched against the island and Lauren standing way too close, laughing like she wasn't married, like she didn't have a ring on her hand, like I didn't even exist. There was a beat where nobody moved. Lauren's eyes flicked up to me, and in that fraction of a second, her whole face rearranged itself, first shock, then annoyance, and finally the sweetest, fakest smile she could muster. She was quick. Always had been. Her voice snapped into gear as if she could talk the air back into its proper shape. "Oh, Ethan. You're home early. We were just," she gave a brittle little laugh. "Just helping with the measurements." The guy, Tyler, his shirt said, straightened up, shoved his hands awkwardly into his pockets. His eyes darted to Lauren, then to me like he was waiting for a signal to bolt. I didn't say anything. I walked over to the counter, picked up the fallen bottle, some stupid trendy cucumber water she'd been obsessed with lately, and set it upright. The simplicity of the movement seemed to confuse them. They stood frozen, Lauren twirling a strand of hair around her finger, Tyler shifting his weight from foot to foot. I could feel it in the room, that oily, sticky guilt radiating off them both. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't blind. And God knows, I wasn't about to make a scene in my own house for the entertainment of some delivery punk who couldn't even meet my eye. "You done here?" I asked Tyler, my voice flat. He mumbled something like "Yes, sir," and practically sprinted out the door. Lauren didn't even watch him go. She turned back to me with that same sickly sweet smile, the one she used on customer service people and waiters when she wanted to get her way. "Ethan, don't be weird about it," she said, reaching for my arm like she thought she could just reset the clock by touching me. "He was just helping me figure out where the sectional would fit. Honestly, you're acting crazy." "Crazy, right?" Gaslighting 101. I didn't pull away from her hand. I let it rest there for a second, warm and familiar and absolutely meaningless now. Then I stepped back, and when her fingers slipped off me, I swear she looked insulted, like I was the one being unreasonable. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just looked at her, at the way she shifted her weight, at the way her mouth tightened when she realized her charm wasn't working. She couldn't stand being ignored. It was a death sentence to her. Lauren crossed her arms, tapping her foot like she was waiting for me to apologize. "If you're gonna be weird about every little thing, maybe you should trust me more. You know how flirty some of those guys are. It's harmless. Harmless. Right? The same way termites are harmless, you only notice once the foundation's already rotted through." I went upstairs without another word. Not because I was letting it go. Because I knew if I said something right then, I'd burn the whole damn house down. But something changed inside me in that moment. Something permanent. I realized the woman downstairs wasn't my wife anymore. She was someone else. A stranger who wore her skin and smiled her smile and lied with the same mouth that used to whisper promises in the dark. And I wasn't just going to stand there and let her rot our life from the inside out. No, I had a better idea. Something patient. Something she would never see coming. Something that would leave her gasping for air the way she just left me standing there. An afterthought in my own home. That night, Lauren slept like a baby. Or at least she pretended to. She sprawled across the bed, hogging the blankets the way she always did, her breathing slow and even, like nothing in the world could touch her. I lay there on my back, staring at the ceiling, feeling every minute drip past like acid. There was a buzzing inside me, a need for action crawling under my skin, louder with each breath she took. At 3:14 a.m., I got up. Quietly. Carefully. I went downstairs, flicked on the kitchen light, and pulled out her laptop from her tote bag. She never logged out of anything. Too arrogant, too lazy. And there it was, her emails open like a wound, bleeding secrets she thought were safe. The first thing I saw was a thread titled "Fun last night," winky face, from a contact saved only as M. The pit in my stomach tightened as I clicked it open. Photos. Blurry, laughing selfies at some rooftop bar I didn't recognize. Her hand on someone's chest. His face cropped out, but it didn't take a detective to know it wasn't some casual girl's night. And the messages, sweet, smug, little bombs. When can we sneak away again? You're way better company than that boring husband, lol. Wish I could wake up next to you instead of sneaking around. I sat there, the kitchen clock ticking way too loud, the cheap overhead bulb buzzing, and realized it wasn't just flirting with a delivery guy. That was just the tip of it. Lauren wasn't losing control. She was in control. She wanted to be caught. She wanted to humiliate me. It wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. It was deliberate. Calculated. Like I was some piece of furniture she could shove into a corner while she played house with whoever caught her attention that week. And the rage, God, it wasn't hot, it was cold, surgical. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't even going to confront her, not yet. No, I was going to build something she couldn't dodge. A trap so clean she'd slice herself to pieces trying to escape it. I spent the rest of the night laying the groundwork. First, I drafted a letter. Not a rant. Not a messy emotional explosion. A masterpiece. Short, sharp, devastating. It wasn't about begging for answers. It wasn't about making her feel guilty. It was about crushing that smug look off her face once and for all. About exposing her to herself in a way no apology, no gaslight could undo. I titled it, "My Wife's Flirty Behavior with the Delivery Guy Backfired Horribly. My revenge letter shattered her completely." And believe me, I meant every word. Second, I took screenshots of everything. Every email, every photo. I transferred them onto a flash drive I labeled memories and slid it into her purse where she'd find it later, casually, thinking it was something cute from me. Third, I texted her best friend, Olivia. A single line, "Thought you should know what your bestie's been up to behind my back." Photos attached. Olivia wasn't just her friend, she was her judge, jury, and executioner. And Lauren cared more about Olivia's opinion than she ever had about mine. By the time the sun started dragging its pale light across the kitchen windows, I wasn't tired. I was electric. Alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't desperation anymore. It was the calm before the impact. At 7 a.m. sharp, Lauren padded into the kitchen in her fluffy socks, yawning, stretching, completely unaware that her world was already crumbling under her feet. She gave me a sleepy, fake smile and went for the coffee pot. "Morning," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. I just smiled back. A real one. For the first time in months. Because sometimes you don't need to raise your voice to destroy someone. Sometimes all you have to do is wait. And her wait was almost over. Lauren noticed something was wrong the moment she sat down at the kitchen table. She was scrolling absently through her phone when a flicker of confusion passed across her face. Then tension. Then suspicion. It was subtle, but I caught it. The tightening of her jaw. The way her thumb slowed its movement against the screen. I didn't even have to ask. Olivia had responded. Lauren looked up at me, measuring, calculating, the way you study a snake you didn't realize was coiled at your feet. She tried to play it cool. She always thought she could lie her way out of anything. Maybe she still believed she could twist the truth into something I would swallow. "So, anything you want to talk about?" she said, feigning casual, tapping the edge of her coffee cup with her nail. I leaned back in my chair, arms folded, giving her nothing. Silence is a weapon when you know how to use it. Her smile faltered for half a second before she plastered it back on. "Look, if this is about yesterday, I told you already, you're being paranoid. Tyler was just helping. You're blowing everything out of proportion. You're making yourself crazy." It was almost impressive how quickly she defaulted to belittling me. Like my emotions were an inconvenience she could just erase by calling them ridiculous. I didn't respond. I just stared at her like she was a stranger sitting in my house wearing my wife's skin. The air stretched tight between us. Lauren hated silences she couldn't control. She hated not being the one pulling the strings. Her knee started bouncing under the table, a nervous tic she didn't even realize she had. When her phone buzzed again, she jumped like a guilty teenager. She yanked it off the table, glanced at the screen, and then went pale. I could see it, the panic rolling through her like a tidal wave she was too slow to outrun. "What did you do?" she hissed, her voice low and sharp. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "Me? Nothing. Looks like your friends are just learning what kind of person you really are." She stood up so fast the chair skidded back and slammed into the wall. "You had no right to drag other people into this. This is private. Between us. Private. As if betrayal ever stays confined between two people. As if the cracks she hammered into our marriage wouldn't spiderweb through every part of our lives." I rose calmly, towering over her without needing to say a word. Lauren's breathing grew shallow. She wasn't used to being the smaller one, the one off balance. She thrived on control, and now it was slipping through her fingers faster than she could grab at it. "Is it just the delivery guy?" I asked, voice like ice. "Or are there others?" Her mouth opened, then closed. No words came out, just a series of pathetic, broken noises like a car engine refusing to start. And then the lies came flooding in, desperate and ugly. "I was lonely, Ethan. You're always working late. You barely look at me anymore. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just, just what?" I interrupted, stepping closer. "You accidentally flirted? You accidentally ended up on rooftops with some random guy? You accidentally trashed everything we built." Her face twisted into something feral. She didn't like being cornered, exposed. Her survival instincts kicked in hard. "You're not perfect either," she snapped. "Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have had to find someone who actually listens." Had to. Like it was a necessity. Like betrayal was her medicine and I was the sickness. The disgust I felt was overwhelming, but I didn't let it crack the surface. She wasn't going to get a scene. She wasn't going to get a screaming match where she could paint herself as the victim. I leaned down, so close she could feel every word when I spoke. "I hope he was worth it," I said, voice low, calm, final. "Because you just lost the one person who actually cared." Lauren stood there, fists clenched, trembling with rage, humiliation, and fear. She didn't know what to do with herself now that the game was over and she had lost so spectacularly. I turned my back on her and walked away, every step a nail sealing her fate inside the coffin she built with her own hands. Behind me, I heard something crash. Probably the coffee cup, maybe the chair, but I didn't even flinch. Let her rage. Let her destroy whatever she needed to feel powerful again. It wouldn't change the fact that she had already lost. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't need to. The silence was punishment enough. I got into my car and pulled out of the driveway without looking back. Let her sit there among the broken pieces, trying to piece together a life she didn't deserve anymore. I didn't have a plan beyond driving. Just movement. Just space. The streets blurred past, cold and gray, and all I could think about was how small Lauren had made herself without even realizing it. She used to be this fierce, vibrant woman, my partner, my best friend. Now she was just noise, static, something I needed to tune out before it poisoned me further. My phone buzzed, over and over. Texts, calls, voicemails, all from her. I didn't even bother checking. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and kept driving. The city sprawling out ahead of me like a giant, rotting carcass. An hour later, when I finally turned back toward the house, it wasn't because I forgave her or wanted to talk. It was because I knew Lauren wasn't the type to suffer silently. She was going to do something stupid. She couldn't help herself. And I was right. Her car was gone when I pulled up. The front door was wide open, swinging gently in the breeze. It would have been laughable if it weren't so pathetic. Inside, it was chaos. Cushions thrown off the couch, papers scattered across the floor, drawers yanked out and dumped. She had gone through everything, searching, hunting, for what, I didn't know. Maybe for some shred of control she thought she could wrestle back. Maybe just to destroy something that still belonged to both of us. In the middle of the living room floor, there was a handwritten note. Not folded, not hidden, just lying there waiting for me. I picked it up, recognized her frantic, messy handwriting instantly. "I deserve better than you. You never appreciated me. I'm not the villain here, you are. It was almost funny how predictable she had become, how desperately she was trying to twist reality into something she could live with. A drowning woman clawing at the water, convinced the ocean owed her mercy. And then, beneath the scribbled self-pity, something else. Maybe you'll go stay with Mark for a while. At least he knows how to treat a woman. Mark. The name slapped harder than anything she had thrown at me before. Not the delivery guy. Not some anonymous mistake. Mark. Our neighbor. Married. Father of 2. The bile rose in my throat so fast I had to grip the edge of the doorway to keep from pitching forward. Images flashed unbidden. Summer barbecues, backyard beers, casual jokes across the fence. All of it curdling into something rotten. I crushed the note in my fist. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It wasn't just disrespect. It was war. Lauren had declared it, openly, without shame, without hesitation. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She wasn't sorry. She wanted to burn everything to the ground and dance in the ashes. Fine. If she wanted fire, I would give her the whole damn inferno. I took a breath, sharp and cold, and started pulling down the picture frames from the walls. The wedding photo, crash. The vacation snapshots, crash. The framed home sweet home sign she had insisted on, crash. One by one, methodically, stripping the house bare of every lie we had ever pretended to believe. When I was done, I sat in the middle of the wreckage, breathing hard, heart pounding, a strange calm settling over me. This wasn't my home anymore. It was just a crime scene, and Lauren had left all the fingerprints anyone would ever need. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I sat there on the stripped living room floor, surrounded by shards of the life I used to believe in, watching the dark windows glow faintly as the city crawled toward morning. My phone buzzed every half hour, different numbers now. Lauren must have been borrowing other people's phones after I blocked her. Her desperation seeped through every ignored call, every unanswered message, but I refused to touch it. At 6:02 a.m., I finally moved. I took a trash bag from under the kitchen sink and started collecting everything she had touched, her sweaters tossed over chairs, her makeup bags abandoned in the bathroom, the stupid scented candles she littered around the house to make it feel more Instagrammable. Everything went into the bag. No ceremony. No sentimentality. Just clean, mechanical erasure. At exactly 7 o'clock, my doorbell rang. I didn't need to check. I already knew. When I opened the door, there she was, Lauren, hair a mess, makeup from the night before smudged under her eyes, wearing the same clothes she had on when I left. She looked smaller somehow, not fragile, just pathetic. She shoved past me without being invited, marching into the ruined living room and spinning around to face me, breathing hard like she'd just run a marathon. "This is our house, Ethan," she barked, arms flailing at the wreckage. "You don't get to just tear it apart because you're mad." I closed the door calmly behind me, leaned against it, watching her flail and rage and spit poison like a snake caught in its own trap. "I'm not mad," I said evenly. "I'm done." That hit her harder than shouting ever could. She staggered back a step, blinking, scrambling for the right lie, the right manipulation. It was like watching a magician reach into an empty hat over and over, desperate for a rabbit that wasn't there anymore. She tried switching gears instantly. The tears came next, fast and sloppy, bubbling up out of nowhere. "Please, Ethan, please," she sobbed, voice cracking so theatrically I almost laughed. "I made a mistake, okay? A few mistakes. I was lonely. I didn't think you loved me anymore." I held up a hand and she fell silent like a switch had been thrown. "You weren't lonely," I said coldly. "You were greedy." The words hung between us, sharp enough to cut. "You didn't cheat because you were sad. You cheated because you thought you could get away with it. You thought you were smarter than me, stronger than me. You thought you could spit in my face and ID thank you for the rain." Her mouth opened, some protest halfway formed, but I didn't give her the chance. "I'm filing for divorce today," I said, every syllable slow and final. "You'll get a lawyer. They'll get mine. You'll get your stuff. They'll get my peace." Her face crumpled like I had slapped her. Tears, real this time, welled up and spilled over. But it didn't move me. Not anymore. She stumbled closer, reaching out like a drowning woman. Please, Ethan, don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to therapy, I'll change, I swear. I stepped back, out of her reach. Watching her hand fall uselessly to her side was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. You don't want to fix anything, I said, voice low. You want to rewind. Pretend it never happened. Pretend you didn't tear us apart with your own hands. But there's no rewind button, Lauren. There's no fix for this. For a long, heavy moment, she just stood there, chest heaving, mascara running down her face, completely hollowed out. And then, like a switch flipping again, the anger returned. Her mouth twisted into a sneer. Fine, she spat. Go ahead. Throw away the best thing you ever had. You'll regret this when you're alone and miserable. I smiled then, a real, genuine smile. I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life than ever share a room with you again. The words hit her like a gunshot. She recoiled, stumbling back toward the door she had stormed through just minutes earlier. I didn't open it for her. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't offer comfort. She let herself out, slamming the door behind her so hard that a framed photo, the last one left standing on the hall table, toppled and shattered at my feet. I didn't bother picking it up. Some things are better left broken. The house was a carcass now, picked clean of anything that mattered. I didn't waste time mourning it. I had bigger things to do. I packed 2 duffel bags, essentials only, and loaded them into my car. I wasn't going to rot in that tomb while Lauren scavenged through the ruins of what she destroyed. I didn't even leave a note. Let her walk into the echo of her own choices and realize just how thoroughly she had emptied the place. As I pulled away, a thought crept into my mind. Mark, the neighbor, the man she had bragged about running to like some desperate teenager hoping to make me jealous. It wasn't jealousy burning in my chest. It was something colder, sharper, disgust mixed with a kind of surgical clarity. I made a few calls. Nothing illegal. Just some mutual friends, a few quiet conversations. It didn't take long for the truth to start bubbling up. Lauren wasn't just flirting at doorways and sneaking onto rooftops. She had been slithering through the neighborhood for months, grinning in faces that trusted her, planting little bombs in marriages she thought were none of her business. The worst part? She wasn't even discreet. Late-night visits to Mark's garage under the excuse of borrowing tools. Quick coffee runs where she never brought any coffee back. Long hugs that lasted too long. Everybody saw. Nobody said anything. Because who wants to be the one to tear open that nest of snakes? But I wasn't everybody. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to let the truth breathe. Later that day, I printed copies of the screenshots, her emails, her texts, the rooftop selfies, all of it. I put them into plain envelopes. No notes. No explanations. Just the raw evidence. One for Mark's wife, Anna. One for the HOA president Lauren used to charm at every barbecue. One for Olivia, who still hadn't answered any of Lauren's calls after I dropped the first bomb. And one left casually in the mailbox of the neighborhood group chat organizer, the woman who was nosy enough to guarantee everyone would know by sunset. It was surgical, clean, quiet. By 5 p.m., the first text started coming in. By 7 p.m., I got a call from an unknown number and let it go to voicemail. It was Anna, her voice trembling with rage, thanking me for letting her finally see the truth before she wasted another year of her life. By 8 p.m., Lauren's world was crumbling faster than she could crawl after it. I didn't bother checking her social media. I didn't need to. I could feel the implosion from miles away. Around 10 p.m., as I sat in a cheap motel room flipping mindlessly through TV channels I wasn't even watching, my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. I answered this time. There was silence on the other end for a long moment before Lauren's voice, hoarse and broken, finally whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Not angry. Not loud. Just bewildered. Like she couldn't comprehend that actions have consequences. I didn't shout. I didn't gloat. I just said, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting everyone see you the way I finally do." Click. I ended the call before she could say another word. As I stared at the motel ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the air conditioner rattling through the vents, I felt something strange settling over me. It wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't relief. It was freedom. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I slept without dreams. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight bleeding through the thin motel curtains and the feeling that something was wrong. Not in the gnawing, slow-burn way like before. This was sharper. Immediate. My phone buzzed again and again, notifications piling up like a growing avalanche. I dragged myself upright, thumbed the screen, and froze. Lauren wasn't crumbling quietly. She was lashing out. She had posted a long, messy, half-hysterical rant on Facebook, the digital equivalent of throwing herself onto the ground and screaming for attention. A long, rambling mess about how she was betrayed, abused, emotionally abandoned, twisting every bit of her own betrayal into a pathetic sob story where she was the misunderstood martyr. Photos of our wedding day, quotes about forgiveness and strength, hashtags like #healing, #warrior, #moving on. It would have been funny if it hadn't been so disgustingly fake. The comments started stacking up. Some people who didn't know better, flooded her with empty sympathy. You're so strong. Stay positive, Queen. You deserve happiness. But others started asking questions. Hard ones. Comments started disappearing as fast as they appeared. The ones from Anna, brutal and surgical. From Olivia, cutting straight through the lies. From neighbors who weren't buying the act anymore. Lauren was spiraling, and she didn't even realize it. She thought she could lie faster than the truth could catch her. She was wrong. By noon, she called me again. Blocked number, of course. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up and stayed silent. Ethan, she blurted out, her voice ragged, frantic. You have to take it down. You have to tell them you made it up. They're turning on me. I can't. I stayed silent. Let her drown in it. Please, she cried. You don't understand. They're talking about firing me. I have meetings scheduled and they're canceling on me. People aren't answering my calls. You have to fix this. I almost laughed then. Fix it? After everything she set on fire, after everything she smashed without hesitation, she thought I could just wave a hand and make it all neat and painless for her? You made this bed, Lauren, I said coldly. Lie in it. She broke then. I heard it. The pure panic cracking her voice wide open. I'll tell them you hit me, she screamed, desperate, wild. I'll tell everyone you were abusive. You think they'll believe you over me? There it was. The real Lauren. The nasty, feral core she had kept hidden under layers of fake smiles and perfect Instagram filters. The threat didn't scare me. It didn't even anger me. It just confirmed everything. You do that, I said quietly. And every screenshot, every photo, every message. They'll be in the hands of my lawyer before you finish your little speech. She went dead silent. I waited a beat, then added, and you know what the best part is? The more you scream, the more people are going to wonder what you're trying to cover up. Go ahead, Lauren. Burn it all down. And then, for the second time in 2 days, I hung up on her. Not out of anger. Out of mercy. Because there was nothing left for her to save. I tossed the phone onto the bed, grabbed my keys, and walked out into the glaring sunlight. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I was rebuilding. Brick by brick. Without her. I thought maybe after the last call, after she realized the ground was crumbling beneath her, Lauren would finally back off. Maybe she'd retreat into whatever corner she could still cling to and lick her wounds in peace. But Lauren didn't know how to lose gracefully. The next day, I got served. At my motel room door, a knock, and when I opened it, a man in a cheap suit handed me a thick envelope and mumbled something about responding within 10 business days. Inside, a notice. Lauren was filing for separation first, trying to beat me to the punch, framing it like she was the injured party, citing emotional abandonment, neglect, and the laughable claim of irreconcilable differences created by Ethan's emotional instability. It was almost art, the way she rewrote history. She didn't want to win our marriage back. She wanted to win the narrative. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, turning the envelope over in my hands, feeling a rage that was cold, focused, and absolutely unstoppable. This wasn't about us anymore. It was about her pride. She couldn't stand being the villain. She needed to be the victim in her own pathetic play. And worse, she thought she could still humiliate me on her way down. I made one call. Just one. My lawyer, Daniel, wasn't a fancy downtown suit. He was a shark in plain clothes. No small talk. No sympathy. Just razor-sharp strategy. After I explained the situation, he laughed. Actually laughed. She's trying to bluff you, he said. She thinks if she moves first, you'll fold. Let's show her what happens when amateurs try to play chess with professionals. We filed a counteraction that afternoon. Attached to it, screenshots of Lauren's communications with multiple other men. Records of her late-night visits to Mark's house. Witness statements from Olivia and Anna, who were more than happy to provide sworn testimonies after what they had learned. It wasn't just a divorce filing. It was a complete character assassination, and all of it was the truth, which made it unstoppable. By evening, Daniel sent Lauren's attorney, some fresh-faced kid who probably thought he was about to make partner, a very polite but firm letter explaining that any false claims against me would be met with a defamation lawsuit so brutal it would leave Lauren gasping for air long after the divorce was over. We didn't hear anything for 2 days after that. Not a word. Radio silence. Until a knock came again, not at my motel door this time, but at the diner where I was killing time, poking at a plate of fries I wasn't hungry for. I looked up. Lauren. She wasn't dressed up. No makeup, no fake smiles. Just jeans, a hoodie, and a hollow expression that told me the panic had finally sunk in. She slid into the booth across from me without asking. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, voice shaking. I didn't answer. I watched her. Like a specimen in a glass case. I was stupid, she mumbled, twisting the napkin between her fingers until it tore. I got caught up. I thought I could fix it before it broke everything. Still, I said nothing. She swallowed hard. I'll drop the separation filing. I'll sign whatever papers you want. Just don't destroy me, Ethan. There it was. Not an apology. Not real remorse. Just fear. Fear of losing her reputation, her carefully crafted image. Fear of living in the wreckage she had created. I leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with her. You destroyed yourself, I said, voice low and steady. All I did was stop covering for you. Lauren's eyes brimmed with tears, but I didn't feel a shred of pity. I watched her fumble for words, searching for some last string to pull, some last lever to manipulate me. But there was nothing left. No leverage, no strings, just the truth, and it was crushing her. Without another word, I stood up, dropped a few bills on the table, and walked out of the diner without looking back. This time, the door swinging shut behind me felt like a final chapter closing, and she was trapped inside it. The paperwork moved fast after that. Lauren folded like a card tower in a hurricane. She signed the divorce agreement without contesting a single clause. No claims to the house, no demands for alimony, no threats about court battles. It wasn't strength. It wasn't dignity. It was pure survival. She knew if she pushed, she would only bleed more publicly. The final meeting wasn't dramatic. Just 2 signatures on 2 pieces of paper in a lawyer's office that smelled faintly of cheap coffee and forgotten ambition. She didn't even look at me. Didn't dare. When it was done, when the pen lifted from the paper and the lawyer shuffled everything into his briefcase, Lauren rose mechanically and left the room like a ghost that finally realized it had died months ago. I sat there for a few minutes longer, letting the silence seep in, wrapping itself around the hollow spaces she had carved out of me over the past year. But it didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. I walked out into the parking lot and stood there for a moment, the early evening sun beating down on the blacktop, the world still spinning forward like it didn't even notice that something enormous had just ended. And then I saw her. Across the lot, Lauren was standing beside a car that wasn't hers, a beat-up old sedan with peeling paint and a cracked windshield. Mark's car. I shouldn't have been surprised, but seeing it there, seeing her leaning against it like she belonged nowhere anymore, felt like the final nail. She caught me looking, and for one brief, raw second our eyes locked. Not anger, not hatred, just 2 people who finally saw each other without the lies between them. She opened the car door, climbed in, and drove away without a word, without a backward glance. I stood there a little longer, breathing in the air like it was something I'd forgotten existed. Freedom wasn't fireworks and shouting and drunken celebration. It was the quiet realization that the storm had passed and you were still standing. Not the same, never the same, but stronger, sharper, whole in a way you could never be when you were busy carrying someone else's rot. I got in my car, turned the key, and pulled out of that parking lot for the last time. No destination, no grand plan, just forward, away from her, towards something real. Whatever it was, it would be mine. It's strange how quickly life fills in the empty spaces once you clear out the wreckage. Weeks passed, then months. Lauren became nothing more than a ghost story whispered around the neighborhood. Mark's marriage crumbled even faster than ours. Anna kicked him out within a week after the letters hit, and last I heard, he was living in some tiny one-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town. The kind of place where you start the slow process of realizing what you've thrown away. As for Lauren, the last rumor that floated back to me was that she tried moving out of state, chasing a fresh start where no one knew her name. But fresh starts aren't real when you're still carrying the same broken pieces inside you. She never called again. Never tried to fix anything. Maybe she finally understood some ruins aren't worth rebuilding. And me? I didn't find instant happiness. Life didn't magically fall into place because the villain left the stage. There were days where the silence felt heavier than I thought I could carry. Days where the anger and betrayal clawed at the back of my mind without warning. But somewhere in that silence I found myself again. Simple things. Like waking up and not wondering if I was being lied to. Like breathing without feeling like I owed someone an apology just for existing. Like walking into my own house, a new one, a small rental I filled only with things that mattered, and knowing it was mine. Untouched. Honest. I stopped trying to make sense of why Lauren did what she did. There's no logic to selfishness. No grand reason behind cowardice and betrayal. Some people break everything good they touch simply because they can't stand to hold something pure without tainting it. That's not my burden anymore. If you're reading this, if you're sitting in the same dark place I once was, questioning your worth because someone else threw it away like trash, listen carefully, it's not you. Their betrayal is not a reflection of your value. It's a confession of their own emptiness, their own fear, their own pathetic weakness. And no matter how loud they scream, no matter how many lies they stack around themselves like a fortress, the truth always wins in the end. Always. It's not easy. It's not clean. It's not quick. But you will survive it. You will outlive the fire they set. And one day, when the dust finally clears and you're standing there alone, bruised but breathing, you'll realize something they never will. You were never the broken one. They were. And you? You're just getting started.